Hello friends, today we will discuss about the descending tract, and one of the most important descending tract is the corticospinal tract. It is also known as pyramidal tract. Pyramidal tract. So in the university examination of the subject physiology, several times this questions has been asked for 10 marks, that is the long question or the main question. Describe the course or first origin, describe the origin, then course, termination and functions of the corticospinal tract, okay, or pyramidal tracts. So this is very important question, and clinically also it is very important. So I will just highlight the importance of this tract is this tract. What is first of all tract means? Tract means a bundle of the axons which is running either from the top portion, that is from the higher center to the spinal cord, or from the spinal cord to the higher center. So this bundle or the group of nerve fibers or the axons, this is simply termed as tracts when it is inside the nervous system. The same bundle of the axons when they are traveling, the nerve fibers in the peripheral nervous system, then it is called as nerves. Okay, so the similar is known as tracts. So descending tracts means they are descending from the cerebral cortex to the spinal cord, and the importance of this corticospinal tract is it will help in maintaining the voluntary motor activity. Motor activity means movements. Okay, suppose I am raising my hands, okay, I am lowering my hand like this voluntarily, okay, I am flexing my elbow, then I am extending the elbow joint. So this process is controlled by my brain. Which part of my brain controls my movements and all we'll discuss today. Corticospinal tract, as the name indicates, this originates from the cerebral cortex and in the spinal cord. So corticospinal tract. Okay, so let us discuss under this side headings or under this objectives. Okay, so first about the origin, from where this tracts originate. Okay, so now one by one we'll discuss. So first of all, you should know some areas of the brain. Okay, I'm just showing the lateral section of the brain, cut section. Okay, we have two cerebral hemisphere, right side and left side. So one of the cerebral hemisphere here, central sulcus, you know, there is one sulcus and gyri will be there. This is the central depression or the central sulcus. The area just anterior to the central sulcus is known as precentral gyrus. In this precentral gyrus, this area which will control the voluntary movements are present, and these are called as motor area or the motor cortex simply. Under this motor area, three areas come. So one is primary motor area, second one is supplementary area, and third one is the premotor area. Primary motor area is just anterior to this central sulcus, that is in the precentral gyrus. So I am just highlighting it with this black color. Okay, so this particular area of our brain, it is known as primary motor area, which will control the movements of our body. Okay, we have two cerebral hemispheres. So right side will control the left side movements, and left side brain will control the right side movements. Okay, how it exactly controls that we'll come to know in the course and the termination. Okay, now this area is called as primary motor cortex. Now along with that, just anterior to this 1 to 3 centimeter anterior to this primary motor area, there are two other areas. One is supplementary motor area and the premotor area. So I'll just highlight this with some other colors. So this with the red color, I'm highlighting the supplementary area, and this blue color, I'm highlighting this premotor area. Okay, premotor area. So we have primary motor cortex, supplementary motor area and premotor area. Together these three areas constitute the motor cortex. Motor cortex means it will control the motor activity of our body. Motor activity means simply movements of our body, that is the movements of the muscles and the joints, right? Now how exactly it will control, we are going to study now. Just posterior to this central gyrus, there is one more area here in this blue color, that is this known as somatosensory area. So all the sensations from our body will ultimately sensed by this part of the brain. Okay, this is also important in our today's discussion. You will come to know about this. And Brodmann's classification, there is certain area number is given to this. So primary motor cortex, it is comes under area number 4. It is also designated as area number 4, this area. And the supplementary motor area, premotor area, it is known as area number 6 under the Brodmann's classification. So actually, for any movement, first thought should come. Okay, for example, suppose this is a pencil or a marker here. So I want to hold this marker with my left hand. Okay, now so first thought will come in my right motor cortex, so that I can move my left hand near this, okay, from here, from this position to here. So that thought comes in the premotor area, and they send the signal to the primary motor area, and however the supplementary motor area will help in all the movements, okay. Opposite side will control. So first the thought, so why it is important is, suppose my hand is here, the program of the movements of the muscles will be different. Suppose my hand is here, so from here the hand has to come here and catch this pencil, okay. So the movements will be different. So that programming, if the hand is somewhere here, it has to come from here and catch here. Whatever movements we are discussing, so that will be programmed with this premotor area, and it is ultimately going to the primary motor area. And primary motor area, the neurons will be present. That neurons will descend from all these areas, and the axons of that they form a tract, and that is nothing but the corticospinal tract. So origin I'll tell you. Primary motor area, just now what we have discussed, that is the area number 4, primary motor area, that is the area number 4. So this area constitute around 30% of the total fibers formed by the corticospinal tract, okay. Then secondly, the other areas, the other two areas of the motor cortex, that is the supplementary motor area, plus premotor cortex or the premotor area. So this together they constitute the next 30% of the total fibers, totally 60% from the motor cortex. Now surprisingly, remaining 40% is contributed by the somatosensory cortex. Somatosensory, though its function is to for the sensing of the different sensations which are carried by the ascending tracts, but in this pyramidal tract, it is the fibers, 40% of the neurons are coming from the somatosensory area also. So out of this, 30% from this primary motor area, 30% from this supplementary and premotor area, 40% from this area number 3, 2, 1, that is the somatosensory area. So totally out of 100% fibers, 30, 30 and 40%. So hope you know the origin, the first side heading or the objective. Origin is from this area. Now some more extra points about this thing. You know, cerebral cortex has different layers. So in the fifth layer, there are specialized bigger neurons present, and that specialized bigger neurons which are present in, especially in this primary motor cortex, it is known as bed cells, or also known as pyramidal cells. Bed cells or the pyramidal cells. So these cells are named after the Russian scientist Vladimir Betz. Okay, in the year 1874, he first discovered this in experimental animals, that these are very bigger neurons. So these bigger neurons, the diameter of these neurons will be around 60 microns, and the axons of these neurons, the diameter of the axons will be around 16 microns. So some neurons will be very big, up to 100 microns also. So this is the one of the largest or the biggest neurons which are present in our central nervous system. So which are present in this fifth layer, that is known as bed cells. So this primary motor area and these neurons, you know, totally all these nerve fibers which are originating from this 30%, 40%, it will be around 1 million neurons. 1 million means around 10 lakh neurons. Out of that, this what I am explaining about this bed cells, okay. So this will be around 34,000, okay, around 34,000, just around 3% of the total fibers, okay. So roughly 3% of the total fibers out of 10 lakh, just around 34,000. Remaining will be the smaller neurons, smaller axons. So the diameter will be around, on an average, 4 microns, okay. But these are the highlight neurons, the largest neurons which will carry the sensation. And you know, the speed of these neurons will be very fast, like around 70 meters per second. So fastest conduction, one of the fastest impulses will go from this 70 meters per second with the speed, okay, from the cerebral cortex to the spinal cord, okay. So this is about the origin. Now let us come to the second side heading. So first origin we have discussed, then we will discuss about this is the first, okay. Let me highlight this with the red color. origin. Okay, in this format only, if you write in for your theory exam 10 marks, you will get out with a good neat diagram. I'll try to draw the line diagram also. So first, this is the origin. Then the second one is, you should know about the course, that is after originating how the fibers will go ultimately to the muscles, okay, to this from the spinal cord, ultimately from the cerebral cortex to spinal cord, how it will go. So let us try to draw a line diagram for the better understanding of this course. So I am just drawing a very rough line diagram of the cerebral cortex, okay, right side and left side. Okay, this is the right side, this is the left side cerebral cortex. Okay, now there will be brainstem also, just at the base here, midbrain, pons, medulla, midbrain, pons, medulla. Let me write down here, midbrain, pons, medulla. Okay, in this section, cut section, hopefully it is called as coronal section, right? Midbrain, pons and medulla. Okay, now this again further, you know, on the other side of the midbrain, pons and medulla, there will be cerebellum also. Anyway, we are not concentrating on that. Then it will continuous as spinal cord. Okay, spinal cord. I am just drawing disproportionately, not a good neat anatomical diagram, just to understand the concept, spinal cord. So I'll just draw a cut section of the spinal cord also. You know, the gray matter will be present at the center of the spinal cord, and the white matter will be at the periphery. Here there will be the anterior horn cells. Okay. Now we have discussed about the origin. So I will just use this red color. See, from this right cerebral cortex and from this left cerebral cortex, that is primary motor area, supplementary motor area, premotor area and the somatosensory area. This is the cerebral cortex, right side and left side. So this, as I said you, around 10 lakh nerve fibers will, from right side as well as left side separately, they will descend down. That is the axon. They form a bundle in the form of a tract. They will descend down. Okay. Now they form some structures like a rays. So that's why it is termed as corona radiata. It looks like that. So that's why it is known as corona radiata, like a radiating fibers. Okay, corona radiata. Now when they go down to the subcortical structures, there is a basal ganglia, thalamus and all. So one important structure is internal capsule. Internal capsule. I won't go in detail about this internal capsule. You might have studied in the anatomy. If time permits, we will discuss in some other video. But there is very much important structure, internal capsule here. So more specifically, posterior limb of the internal capsule. From here, all the bundles will go through the posterior limb of the internal capsule. Okay, from the right side as well as the left side. Okay. Why? What is the significance here is, most of the time whenever there is any trauma or damage to this part, that is the internal capsule, suppose if there is a damage to the right side, here the left side paralysis will be there, that is hemiplegia, left upper limb and left lower limb will be paralyzed if there is a damage on the right side internal capsule. We will discuss, you will come to know how exactly. Okay. Now see, this nerve fibers which will pass through the posterior limb of the internal capsule, they will descend in the brainstem, that is the midbrain, pons and medulla. So at the lower end of the medulla, where there is structure known as pyramid, that's why it is called as pyramidal tract. Okay, there are pyramids here in the medulla, pyramidal tract, these structures. So the lower end of the medulla, they will decussate to the opposite side, these fibers. Not all fibers, but most of them, 80 to 90% will go. That is, from the right side, it will go to the left half. You know, there is a bilateral symmetrical, two cerebral hemisphere and all, even the spinal cord, right side, left side. Okay, so 80% of the fibers will go to the opposite side, 80 to 90%. Similarly, the fibers which are coming from the left cerebral cortex, they will come from the left internal capsule, descend into the midbrain, pons, medulla, and they will also cross at the level of the medulla. That's why it is called as pyramidal tract. That is, it forms a pyramidal decussation, 80 to 90%. Okay. So that's the reason why this part will control the opposite side, because it is crossing at the level of the medulla, lower end of the medulla more specifically. Then after crossing, we are discussing the course, that is how it goes from which station to which station, like that. So it will go through run into the spinal cord. Where exactly in the spinal cord? In the white matter, lateral funiculus, lateral side. Okay, posterior part of the lateral funiculus. This is known as funiculus, lateral funiculus, posterior part of the lateral funiculus. That is, this left side fibers are going to the right side posterior part of the lateral funiculus of the right side. Similarly, the right side fibers will run into the white matter, that is the lateral funiculus here. So, as I said you, 80 to 90% will decussate, but around 10 to 20% of the fibers will descend on from the same side, that is right side, it will descend on to the same side, and from the left side they will also descend on to the same side. Okay, they will descend on into the anterior white funiculus, that is anterior part of this white matter of the spinal cord, known as anterior, like a bundle. Now, these 80% of the fibers which are coming from the opposite side cerebral cortex or the motor cortex, this it is known as lateral corticospinal tract. So, corticospinal tract are of two types, lateral corticospinal tract, this is the one type, and the second one is this one, ventral or anterior corticospinal tract. Ventral, or it is also known as anterior corticospinal tract. Hope you understood why it is called ventral and why it is called lateral, because it is running in the lateral white funiculus and it is running in the anterior white funiculus or the ventral. So, two types of the corticospinal tract. So, this is the course, how it will go from the origin. So, we have discussed 2 points, origin and the course. After origin, hope it is very easy. If you understand this, then you need not mug up. You can easily produce in your examination the same diagram, and also clinically the concepts will be very clear when you see the real patients, and you can identify the where the lesions will be and all. So, and these neurons which are coming, as I said you, these large Betz neurons or whatever neurons which are coming from this cerebral cortex going up to the spinal cord, and finally they will terminate in the anterior horn cells. We will discuss that in the termination part. So, these neurons are termed as upper motor neuron, UMN. Okay, what happens if there is a damage to this upper motor neuron, that is the upper motor neuron lesions, we will discuss later, and already we have made a video on the difference between the upper motor neuron lesions and the lower motor neuron lesions. Just go to the playlist of the nervous system or the subject physiology in our channel Doctor's Corner. You will find we have explained the detailed discussion, and that is also very important question, subject physiology and internal medicine for 5 marks. Differentiate between the upper motor neuron lesions and the lower motor neuron lesions, we have discussed in detail. Okay, so in this video we are not going to touch that topic. Okay, these neurons of the corticospinal tract are known as upper motor neurons. Now, what are lower motor neurons then? You know, there will be muscles here. So, let me draw a skeletal muscle here. Okay, suppose this is one skeletal muscle. Okay, say it as biceps muscle of the left side. Now, to this biceps muscle, one neuron from this anterior horn will go and supply. This is known as alpha motor neuron from the anterior horn cells. So, this neuron, it is simply known as lower motor neuron. So, the neurons which are originating from the anterior horn cells and going and supplying to the muscles are known as lower motor neuron, and this corticospinal tract are upper motor neuron, mind it. Okay. Now, this is the course. Then what about the termination? The third side heading is where it will terminate, that is after originate, where it will terminate. As the name indicates, corticospinal tract, definitely it will terminate into the spinal cord. Now, where exactly in the spinal cord? Let us discuss. You know, in the course we have discussed that it is in the white matter, lateral white funiculus. So, this 80% fibers which are coming from the opposite side, they will ultimately go into this gray matter of the spinal cord in the intermediate horn, and they will synapse to the interneurons or the internuncial neurons which are present there. Okay, and few of them will go and synapse directly to the anterior horn cells. Okay, few of them will directly go both side. Okay, go to the anterior horn cells, and they will control the movements here. So, see, this tract, it is controlling the movement of this muscle, and this tract is ultimately coming from the, where it is coming? It is coming from the right side. So, right side neurons which are coming from this motor cortex of the right side is controlling the left side muscles, either upper limb or lower limb. Okay. Now, we have so it will terminate into the internuncial neuron in the intermediate horn, or few will go to the posterior horn and few will go into the lower motor neurons directly. They will synapse and control these things. Okay. Now, this is about the lateral corticospinal tract. What about this anterior or the ventral corticospinal tract, which we have highlighted with this blue color? So, we have seen that 10 to 20% has not descended down. not crossed to the opposite side in the medulla, they have descended. It is right side coming to the right side, left side coming to the left side. But at the level of the spinal cord, even this 10 to 20 fibers which have not crossed to the opposite side will cross to the opposite side now. So this right side fibers now will cross to the left side and supply this, and this left side will cross to the right side at the level of the spinal cord. So 80% of the fibers crossing at the level of the medulla, remaining 10 to 20 crossing at the level of the spinal cord. So ultimately all 100% fibers almost will cross to the opposite side. That's why the muscle contraction, relaxation, or the voluntary control of a muscle or movement is ultimately controlled by the opposite side primary or supplementary motor cortex or premotor area ultimately. Okay, this is the reason. So terminate into the spinal cord, anterior horn cells or the intermediate horn cell, or even into the this one posterior nerve root. Then the next side heading is the functions. Physiology is all about functions. So what is the functions of this corticospinal tract? As I already mentioned, I'll just revise it. So it helps in the voluntary skilled motor activity. Motor activity, that is the movement. So any movements, I want to raise the hand, lower the hand. So whatever I want to do, this voluntary motor activity is controlled by this corticospinal tract. Now, is it the only tract or only part in the central nervous system that will control the voluntary motor activity? No. It is the major part, but it controls the voluntary motor activity in association with other structures like basal ganglia, cerebellum, some brainstem structures, even the spinal cord and muscles, of course. So in coordination with all these structures, it will control the voluntary motor activity or the voluntary movements of our body. Okay, hope the point is very much clear to you. Functions, voluntary motor activity, we'll discuss about that, how exactly it will coordinate with the basal ganglia, cerebellum and the other structures when we deal with that. Just remember this one very important point, voluntary and specifically the distal part, that is the movement of the fingers and hand, distal part, right? Apart from this axial part, the distal part it will control more. Okay, functions. Then finally, applied aspect. Why we need to know all these details about this thing, from where it will go, it will travel and crosses at the medulla and all, because whenever there is a damage or lesions of these neurons, this is something simply known as upper motor neuron lesions, UMN lesions, or damage to this corticospinal tract, then what happens is there is a paralysis of the opposite side, paralysis simply. So when specifically the most of the muscle fibers are at the level of the internal capsules or brainstem, so they are converging here. So if there is a slightest trauma here, say road traffic accident, so if there is a damage to this or any disorder pathology like stroke, problem with the blood supply to the brain, something happens and this part of the brain is damaged, suppose right sided internal capsule there is a damage due to any reason, then there is a hemiplegia, it is opposite side, there will be paralysis, that is left upper limb and left lower limb is paralyzed. Similarly, if there is damage on the left side internal capsule, then there will be paralysis of the right upper limb and right lower limb, that is hemiplegia. This side, if there is a severe damage here, because all the fibers which are coming here, it will ultimately go to the opposite side. At the level of the medulla, from the lateral corticospinal tract, at the level of the spinal cord, ventral corticospinal tract. Hope it is very much clear. Now finally, to revise this, I will revise it under this side headings in the from this textbook diagram. So origin, it originates from the primary motor area 30%, premotor area and supplementary area 30%, and somatosensory area 40%, that is origin. Then course, it will go from the posterior limb of the internal capsule, then it will go to the brainstem, midbrain, pons and medulla. At the lower end of the medulla, 80 to 90% fibers will cross to the opposite side, and that fiber is called as lateral corticospinal tract, and to 10 to 25% fibers will descend on the same side, that is known as ventral corticospinal tract or anterior corticospinal tract. Okay, and function is to maintain, and ultimately they will terminate in the anterior horn cells of the spinal cord or the interventional neurons in the intermediate gray horn cells of the spinal cord, and the function here is to control the voluntary motor activity. Okay, so please subscribe our channel Doctor's Corner and stay connected with us, and please share this link of the video with your friends, juniors and seniors. We'll try to make such informative lectures from all the subjects of the MBBS. So please support us. Thank you.